Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to this edition of the Pest Geek podcast. We got a special guest today on the podcast. But I want to cover a couple of things with you that we got some really new, exciting stuff that I've been planning to do for the longest while. So we're doing a special feature on the Pest Geek podcast called Pest Pro Local or Pest Geek Local. And if you are a regional professional, and what classifies a professional? Well, if you're doing this and this is what you do for a living, you're a professional if you know what you're doing. So we want to bring on, promote local people on our podcast and our video podcast to promote them to clients, because we do get requests on the podcast for local people. Do you know a guy? I'm in California. I get calls on my line all the time. Our business is ranking nationwide. So it's been on my radar. I just haven't had the time to do it. No time like downtime to get it done. So if you are a local person that would like to do a podcast with me on a specialty local problem and how to solve that problem, how do you do it, and you want to give value to homeowners and to people listening and to other professionals on how you actually do this and you solve this problem, I would love to have you on my podcast. We'll do a video podcast. We SEO it for you. You get local geo tracking on that video, so that it is geo specific to your location, and we can promote you and help you. The other way that we're doing it is with Pest Pro Local. This is something that I've discussed with several people that I've been wanting to do for the longest time, but don't have the time. So Pest Pro Local is going to be it's going to be a state group that we're putting up. We have one for Florida right now, Texas, and California, which is about 50% of our audience and where most people are doing pest control. So we decided to give it a shot there. And what that is it's a group where you, as a local pest pro, sign up, get in, and I'm going to promote it, and people will be able to go on locally. And I live in, Southern California. I have this pest problem. Is there somebody that can help me? And then we can flag somebody, tag somebody that we know is in that area. You can comment, help them out, help them solve that problem. And, you might get a lead from it, because a lot of people, what they're confused about is they think they're going to be able to solve a lot of problems themselves. And when they need 3, 4, 5 products to do a simple job that looks simple, you can be the guy that helps them. So how much is this going to cost me, Frank? Look, it's going to cost you nothing, man. It's free. Why? I told you last year I'm going to do stuff like this. I told you I was doing things for the industry that nobody's doing. There's no association fee, no membership fee. What's the catch? There is no catch. Here's the simple reality. I understand this game. I understand how this social media thing works and how the new media works, and I've been discussing it to death forever. And those people that get it will be on there, will be effective, and they will get the leads. Those people that won't. It's just that simple. So if this is not appealing to you, you don't feel like you want to give away your free advice because it took you 15 years to earn it, and so did mine. I give it away every day on this podcast for free, and I give great value. And that's what I'm talking about, giving value. So if you're interested in any one of these, go ahead and look up Pest Pro Local. There's one in Florida, one in Texas, and one in California right now, and we'll see how that goes. And we're going to do the Pest Pro Local podcast. So you want to sign up. How do I do it, Frank? You go to my website, Pest Geek Podcast, hit the guest button, fill out the form, and register. Don't PM me. Don't IM me. Don't send me, well, I want to talk about this, and what do you think about that? Look, you're the expert. You're the one that knows what you need to talk about. So if you'll come on my podcast, I'll give you a shot. And also, look, guys, if the phone isn't ringing, my phone started ringing last week, but I understand it hasn't been ringing for a lot of people. Some people are right now, they're cranking out the work, but others aren't. it might be the great time for you to get a vanity number. You've been thinking about it. Your business is doing great. You're expanding. You got 5 trucks. And you've been thinking about getting one of those 888 got bugs or an easy to remember number like 1-800-600-500. Give Ring Boost a call. Go to ringboost.com. If you enter the promo code PEST15, you'll get 15% off any of the services that they have. If you go to Pest Geek Podcast /pest, you're going to get 15%, guys, off of everything. So give my buddy Andrew a call over there. He's going to take great care of you. Also, hey, if you guys are getting great value from this and you just saying, man, I really appreciate what you do, and you can afford $5 a month, go ahead and go to our Patreon page. If you go to pestgeekpodcast.com and you hit donate and you want to, hey, great, man. We can do a lot more things that we can provide for everybody for free. I really do appreciate it. Pestgeekpodcast.com, hit donate, or go to patreon.com/pestgeek. Hey, I want to give a special shout out to Daryl Turner over in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, if you're looking for a local pest control guy that services Polk County, Florida, go visit my friend Daryl Turner at pestcartel.com or call him at 863-225-2803. That's 863-225-2803. Daryl Turner at the Pest Cartel. And now, on to our special guest.
Living the Wildlife. So thanks for listening today. I am very pleased to have Jason McDonald, director of JM Internet Group, is a marketing company. Where are you based out
of? We're based out of the Bay Area, San Francisco.
Out of the Bay Area. Okay. Well, welcome aboard, because obviously marketing is a huge issue for the Pest Geek audience, because they're always looking for a way to get an edge over their competition and to start to get their name out there among all of the various distractions for their customers. So welcome to the Pest Geek podcast.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, tell us, how'd you get started in marketing?
How did I get started in marketing? Kind of a funny story. So I am super overeducated. I have a PhD, and I was proudly never had a job until I was 30, essentially. And then I finished my PhD program, and I had to get a job, which was a very rude awakening. And that was in the 90s. It was in like 92, 93. And I didn't want to leave the Bay Area, and I was kind of sick of academics. And so I basically threw caution to the wind, and I ended up working in media companies in San Jose. And it was kind of, I always say that Al Gore and I invented the internet. That was around about 1994.
Yeah.
And so I was working for a media company, and we produced these directories, and I started to get inquiries from all over the world for these print directories. And believe it or not, this was when email was really just getting started. And I started running an email list of sort of how you get these print directories. And it just took off. And then the company kind of went bankrupt, and they said, look, we are not quite dead yet, so we want to give you like 6 months of salary, and you can do whatever you want. And I basically played along the internet, and that was in 94. And then I started a tech company, and it was for engineers, embedded system engineers. And in order to do that, I had to get very good at how search engines work and websites and all that stuff that was taking off in the mid 90s. So that's how I got into this, and kind of the marketing piece sort of emerged out of that, because then you start to think of like, how do people look for information, and how do they discover it, and how do they get excited about it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's my original background is in, believe it or not, in academics.
No kidding. What was your dissertation or doctoral work in like psychology and marketing or business?
Well, it was and it wasn't. Sort of a thing. It was in political science, but I wrote it on economic policy in Eastern Europe.
Okay.
And I wrote it on essentially how ideas flow through a political system.
Nice.
And that's kind of marketing. Politicians are marketers. If you think about it, it's a lot more connected than people think, because politicians are competing for votes, so to speak.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of stuff I learned at Berkeley. I have my PhD from Berkeley. There are a lot of conceptual things that were very useful. And I was always very interested in computers. So the computers and the kind of philosophical stuff kind of worked together. But I'm not sure there was a total plan there other than just suck off the government for free money and live in Europe.
Sure.
And then the money ran out and it was like, okay, now what do I do?
Right. Well, we're glad that you're in the marketing space.
I love the marketing part of it. What I like about marketing in general, is the psychology of it. People are not particularly rational. Marketing is about persuasion and manipulation and putting your best foot forward. And I love the fact that people are irrational. And I love that not a right answer. I'm not a mathematician. I hate having a right answer. I like to be in a state of perpetually not really understanding how everything works.
Okay.
And I find a lot of people struggle with that, right? Because they want a right answer. And sometimes we kind of get a good-ish answer, but not a perfect answer.
Gotcha. So. Well, I'm an ISTJ with a strong J. So, that would be a struggle for me. So you've written several books. Would you care to talk about some of those and how they...
So kind of the same thing. So I had this tech company, and then I started, then the economy went south in, 2008. And so the tech company got kind of clobbered, and I was doing this for myself and my audience and yada, yada. And that went south in 2008. And then a friend of mine from Harvard, I went to Harvard undergraduate, he was like, you should teach this. And then I was like, oh, I really enjoyed the teaching part of graduate school. That part was cool. So I started teaching it, and then it was like, you should write a book about this because you're already teaching it. So that's how I got started writing books. And then, sort of another weird fun fact. So about, it's been probably 7 years ago, I suck at accounting, as you can imagine. And my accountant said, did you know you made $30,000 in royalties off of your books? And I was like, what? So then I really started focusing on my books. So I have books on, if you go to Amazon and you put in SEO, search engine optimization, you'll see me on the first page of that on Amazon. I have a book on social media marketing, and I have a book on Google Ads. So those 3 books are kind of my flagship books. And those are the digital tools that any small business owner or marketer needs to master to be good on the internet, to do well on the internet. Those are 3 areas that I have books on, and I teach classes. I teach for Stanford Continuing Studies on those topics as well. So that's my books.
Well, let's break some of those down, because I think some of our audience is certainly interested in, because Google has their search engine now where you can have like local searches. It's almost like geographical. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
So how can you give a couple of tips? I mean, don't sell the store, obviously, but tease people with giving them a taste of what they could learn if they purchased one of your books or hired your company to help them.
To be honest, I mean, it's funny. I very much give away a lot of information. There's a lot of, I'm very much. I think of what my books do as more a popularizer of information, in the sense that my books tell you the basics.
Right.
They don't really tell you some secret magical sauce. They tell you, hey, if you want to lose weight, get up off the couch and, start walking around the block,
Right,
So that's sort of there. Now, let's just take that idea of local, right? And that's really critical. So I am about 120 years old, and I remember the yellow pages, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some of your audience does. Your millennials like, what? What's the yellow pages? Who knew? Right? But back in the day, right? So back in the day, when you had a cockroach problem, you'd pull out your handy dandy, thick as a brick yellow pages, and you would look under pest control, and you would look at a company, and the company would usually be called something like AAA Pest Control, or Aardvark Pest Control, or Aardvark and Adam and Angelica Pest Control, so that AAA would be the top of the yellow page listing under the category.
Yes.
And you'd call them on this thing called the telephone, which millennials might also not know used to be attached to the wall.
That's right.
And you would, that's how you'd find your pest control guy. Now, let's say you had a rodent problem, you might look under rodent control, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
bat control. So there's this whole category challenge in the yellow pages. Well, essentially, there's nothing new under the sun. And what Google did is, Google killed the yellow pages. They basically took over. And so now, you are on your phone and you realize that you have a bat problem, and you pull out your phone and you put in, bat control near me, right? And Google looks at that relationship between those keywords that you entered. Is it bat control? Is it rodent control? Is it pest control? Et cetera. And then the near me, they look at your physical location on your phone. And if you're in Miami, Florida, they look at pest control near you, and not just Miami, Florida, but down to the zip code or, proximity level. So it's essentially, a yellow pages gone on the internet. Okay. Now, what if I was listening to this podcast, I would hold this thought, right? You can reverse engineer the game that you're playing. And back in the day, in the yellow pages, the game was know the category. Is it pet, pet control or pest control or rodent control or whatever, and name your business A. So you stand at the top. That was the game.
Right.
Now the game is a little bit more complicated, because you have to know a little SEO, which we can go into, but you got to know the keyword. Is it rodent control? Is it pest control? Is it bat control? Is it Miami? Is it Fort Lauderdale? Is it Boca Raton? Et cetera. And then you've got all the tricks and things to do to your website and your local and your reviews, et cetera. So all the downstream. But I think the first important thing, Stephen, for people to realize is it's a game, and you need to know the rules and play the game to win. But most people, they don't know the rules. So I often say to my classes, I can teach this class at Stanford, I'll say, can you go to Las Vegas and play poker if you don't know the rules? And people will kind of go, no. And I'll say, yes, you can. They love you because they will take all the money. Right? Now, if you know the rules, if you know that an ace is worth more than a deuce, and what is a full house versus a flush and all this kind of stuff, you can do much better at poker than if you don't know the rules. The same is true. Can you have a crappy website on the internet and not understand it? Of course you can. Google will take all your money through a program called Adwords.
Yes.
Or you can learn the game and start playing by the rules, and you can do a lot and be so much better at it. So I think it's so important to realize it's a game.
Yeah.
It's not.
So your books will basically outline the big rules of that game, so the person has a frame of reference to work through some of those fundamentals. Is that it?
Exactly. That is the big concept. Is here's a game. I'm going to teach you the rules and the players and the strategies, and then I'm going to give you the hard work of what to do first, second, third. And the thing about it is you don't have to run faster than the bear. You just have to run faster than your buddy.
That's right.
You don't have to be the genius pest control company. You just have to be slightly better than all the other guys and gals who are over their heads with this and don't understand the basics. So a little bit of work will tremendously pay off because, here's a news flash. Most websites suck.
Yeah, mine does. Yes.
Suck a little bit less than everyone else's website. And and even today you think, oh no, websites are. It's not true. Even today, most websites, when it comes to SEO, they're not very good. When it comes to AdWords, Google Ads, right? They've renamed it just Google Ads. Even there, most people don't understand how to do it, and they get their shirt taken by Google. So I'm very much a little bit of learning, a little bit of skill, and you can make tremendous impact on when somebody Googles, pest control company near me, whether you rank, whether they see you, whether you get the click, and whether you get that conversion, which becomes the phone call or the inquiry. It's a lot of basic. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard work. There is work involved, but there's a skill set involved, a little smart, work smarter, not harder type of thing.
Do you have a guideline, a principle, rule of thumb that you would say a small business, how much time and or money should a small business that's established, let's say someone's already been in business for 3 or 4 years, how much time a week or a month should they be looking at tweaking doing SEO type work, whether it be AdWords or tweaking their website? Do you have an idea of what that?
So it's two problems here. So you have to think about, like, one problem is get your house in order. And a second problem is what I call maintenance mode. Most people that come to me, the house is a mess, right? The pantry, the products are all over the floor, the roof is leaking, the windows open, the heater's turned off. You got to start with, like, okay, if we want to get, you're in pest control, right? If you want to prevent the rodents from entering your house, you got to batten down the hatches and close all the entrance points. And as I tell my children, stop eating food in bed and throwing the crumbs on the carpet. Right? There's things that must happen, right?
Right.
So a website comes to me, just take the SEO piece. A website comes to me, and the first thing is we have to kind of get the ducks in a row in the right way. And that probably takes, I would say, for a small business local website where you want to rank for pest control, Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? That probably takes 30 to 40 hours to get it up to speed. Because in my experience, most websites suck. And technical term, suck is a technical term for they don't rank, right? So you need to fix them. That's maybe 30, 40 hours. That's the hardest part, because it's like an episode of Hoarders, right? And the website is just a disaster, and you have to start somewhere, right? Because it may look beautiful. It may be beautiful pictures of cockroaches and rodents and bats, but it may not work when it comes to SEO. So that's maybe 30, 40 hours to fix that. And then once you get up to best practices, which is not that hard conceptually, then I think it's maybe 3 or 4 hours a week, if that. And I'll tell you here's a huge takeaway too. Google reviews for these types of businesses, they are worth their weight in gold. If you get customers to write a review of you on Google, that's enormous to your success. So every time you visit a client, every time your person who does the work visits a client, they should say, hey, are you happy with our service? You are. Do us a favor, write us a review on Google. You can even be a little corrupt and say, we'll send you a Starbucks card, wink, wink, when you write that review. You're not supposed to do that, but things that you can incentivize legitimate, honest, real reviews. Because let's face it, people aren't exactly going to go, wow, my house is infested with rats. Now it's not on Google. It's a kind of a strange industry, right? So you've got to be reviews, right? So,
well, let me ask you a question, because we've had some issues in our industry in a couple of different ways. The first way is spamming the reviews, where what one business would do is they'd form sort of an alliance with other businesses, and they would all put these sort of fake reviews on each other's sites to sort of boost their scores. And the other issue is sometimes false complaints, where people are doing negative reviews as a way of trying to intimidate businesses to refund money for work that the client was just trying to rip them off or didn't, is it just simply the nature of the business? You just have to deal with it, or are there strategies for getting bad reviews off that are illegitimate? Off site? And
I hear you.
Any thoughts on that?
I do. So I actually have a chapter in the SEO book on local reviews, and I talk about reviews, and I really kind of tell you the reality of how reviews work. And reviews are the contact sport of the internet, right? They're dirty tricks. There's spam. Google doesn't do a good job policing them. Yelp doesn't do a good job policing them. None of these, none of them do a really particularly good job at policing them. And there's a lot of problems. Unhappy campers are the most likely person to leave a review. That's one problem. Yeah. You do have malicious competitors. That's another problem. You do have spam, fake good reviews. That's a much more problem. So, it's kind of like playing football. You're out there, it's tough. Now, that said, again, I think people often think gosh, my industry is terrible because people are writing spammy reviews or whatever. And then you'll go look and say, well, how many reviews do your competitors have? And they'll say, oh, 20 or 74 or whatever. And of the 74, how many are fake? Oh, 10. So, some part of it is often just a sheer quantity problem. In my experience, most of the time, if you would just get your staff, hey, are you happy with the job you are? Do us a favor, write us a review, and you make that an absolute must-do part of the process, the problem will solve itself because your good reviews will swamp the bad reviews, the fake reviews, the negative reviews. So I find that most people, it's kind of a sad testament to our society, most people are like immediately ready to go to the dark side. And I'm like, you don't really need to do that. So I wouldn't, I don't think that I don't think that it's that bad. Now that said, so the long and short there is the best way to deal with bad reviews, negative reviews, crazy customer reviews, is to swamp them with good reviews that are legitimate. So if you come to me and say, "Oh my God, my competitors writing bad reviews," I'll say, "Well, what's your review process like?" And they're like, "Well, we pray every night to our Lord and Savior that we get reviews." Right? That's not a strategy. So now, so if they say, well, what's your strategy? Praying. Well, that's not good. If they say what our strategy is, every time that we go on a job, at the end of the job, we say, are you happy? You are happy? Write us a review. Then, then you're doing the work and you can complain. But if you're not doing that, don't complain that you don't have enough reviews. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I think that I understand that. I just had a friend of mine and I was doing a ride along with him. And I was at the house, if memory serves, I was at the house and, in wildlife control, the pest control field often does free inspections. In the wildlife control world, that's often not the case because we get on ladders and we'll go into the attic and there's just a lot more work involved. Well, he was hired to do a bat inspection at this particular house, and he does the whole thing. I mean, he gowns up in his Tyvek suit, he's up in the attic, and he takes tons of pictures and then gives them a report. I mean, it's quite professional.
Oh.
And so his report was, I think your bat problem is not here. You have bats on the exterior of the house. They haven't penetrated the walls. They were just loafing. They were loafing on the house. And that's, it may be annoying to have some droppings on the sidewalk or something, but they're not in the house, right? Once they penetrate the wall, they're in the house, but they weren't. They were loafing on the exterior. And he found no evidence. And, and so he charged the bill and they were upset because you should have given us a discount. And they were complaining about him. And he was like, well, this was the fee. I don't think I need to do any more work, but this is what you paid me for. And they're all upset. And so it really kind of stirred him up. And I felt bad for him because I think they were threatening to give him a bad review. And he was a new company in this location. And I was like, it's almost like a form of hostage taking.
Yeah.
Is what it is. We're going to withhold our review. We're going to give you a negative review.
Yeah, so
extortion.
A couple things about that. And I mean, we're kind of diving into the most difficult problem, but that's all right. Yeah. So we're looking at reviews. So here's a couple ways I deal with that problem, both when I teach classes and work with people. So first of all, like when I'm teaching a class, I'll say, who in here has completed kindergarten? And most people will raise their hand. And then I'll say, who in here believes that life is fair, right? And no one will raise their hands. And I'll say, the problem, who in here believes that customers are not crazy, right? And so part of the problem with reviews is that you can encounter what I call customers from hell, right? And you will encounter them, and you have very limited things that you can do. So for one, you try to prevent working with a customer from hell first and foremost.
Yes.
If that's a person you'd never ask for a review. Now, so to some extent, you can't do much about the fact that there is this tiny minority of people who are just bitter and nasty and horrible and immoral, and the review ecosystem has empowered them to do obnoxious things like essentially threaten you, etc. But it gets back to what is your positive strategy, which is you need to swamp those bad reviews with good reviews.
Yeah. I hear you.
But other things you can do is you can do what's called review gating. Now, what is review gating? Review gating is at the end of the call, they get an email. The email says, did you like us? The email, if they say 789, you like us, they get another email which says, please write us a review. If they give you 1, 2, 3, it says, what's the problem? The problem is, I don't know, you didn't close the door or something. Okay, we'll close the door. Now, are you happy? Yes, for a 7, write us a review. You get a 1, 2, 3, what's the problem? I'm a bitter, nasty, horrible person. Done. You don't ask for a review.
Sure.
So you can work around this, but one of the reasons I love marketing is in marketing, you learn people are crazy. Accept that. Right?
I think it's important for our audience to really perceive this, because
I find it very empowering. Once you realize people are crazy,
right.
people are stupid, people are hairy. They're not all people, of course, just a very vocal minority of people. It makes life easier. You're just like, okay, that. So I think the point here is also don't, just look at your big picture, which is what is your whole review system as a business, as opposed to just the crazy people. If you're so vulnerable to the crazy people, you have a problem in your whole system. You shouldn't be that vulnerable.
Sure. No, I hear you. I think so. Let's talk about, since I brought up the hard question. Let me try to give you a softball question. In your experience, what would you say is the number one mistake that small businesses make on terms of their SEO or their marketing efforts?
Yeah, super easy. I would say the highest value, highest ROA, most obvious, dumbest mistake that businesses make, they do not include the city name of the target city that they want to rank for. So they'll be in Miami and they want to rank for Miami, and you'll look at their website and nowhere on the page will it say Miami. Say, oh, so you think Google is telepathic and it can just know that you're in Miami if you don't tell them you're in Miami. Or they'll be in Miami and they'll say, well, we really want to rank for bat, some very narrow search, bat control company, Boca Raton. And I'll say, well, do you have any content on your website that says Boca Raton? And they'll say, no. And then I'll say, but you expect Google to rank you on a Boca Raton search, even though you're in Miami and you have no content on your website that mentions Boca Raton. Is that correct? And they'll say, yes. And I'll say, okay, do you see the problem? Right. So most businesses for these, this kind of a service, very very heavily local, super, pro tip, easy tip, go on your website and list the 5 cities that you want to rank on and go look at your content. And do you mention those cities on your website? If you don't, immediately do and put them on your homepage. I write these sentences for clients sometimes that say, whether you're in Miami or Boca Raton or Fort Lauderdale or Kissimmee, we offer bat services, bat removal services for you. And they'll be like, Jason, why are you writing this? Whether you're here or you're there. And because I'm trying to get those words on the page in such a way that they're not just comma, I'm crazy.
Right.
So that's, I think, the most common, don't have the city names on their website. Second most common is they do not prioritize their Google reviews.
And what does that mean specifically? How would you? Oh, they don't prioritize them in terms of asking for those.
They don't have. Somebody
says,
oh, somebody says, oh gosh, you did a great job at my pest control, and I'm really happy, but I'm grandma and I'm 82, and I don't know how to write a review. What you should say is, Grandma, hold on, I'm in my truck, I'll be right there. And you go over and you help her with her computer and you help her go through the steps to put that legitimate, honest review on the website. It is worth its weight in gold to get that review. So they don't prioritize it. Is
it true that it's important to have a little bit of negativity in the reviews so it doesn't look always, solid 5s?
I think that's more from a user perspective, but yeah, okay. The other thing I do, and then people are getting smarter. I always, whenever I buy a new product, or look on Amazon, I always sort the reviews by most recent. Okay. Because I find that if you sort by most recent, you'll get a more legitimate scoring, because of course there's a lot of fake reviews on Amazon and all these systems. Yeah. So I often do that. And I think more consumers are getting smarter. If they see all 5 stars, come on, give me a break. So
Right.
I think again, back to let's not overcomplicate this. Just work hard to get some positive reviews. If you get a few negatives, again, suck it up. You don't always win. I always use sports analogies because I never played sports in high school and I was a complete loser who was always chosen last. So now I feel very much entitled to use sports analogies. So suck it up. You got hit by the ball. Suck it up. Okay.
Gotcha. Right. So let's talk about your consulting side of your business. Can you give us some successes where you were able to take someone from the SEO trash heap to being, let's say, at least a B, if not an A SEO company?
I could, but I'd have to kill you.
Okay, I gotcha.
But let me just give you some examples without naming names.
Oh yeah,
so I had a client come to me once who was being extorted by a person who had created a bunch of fake content, and this person was a high-level executive at a bunch of companies, and you would Google his name, and it looked like he was basically a criminal. And we did all sorts of wonderful optimization, and now he looks like an angel. So that was fun. I have people who read my books all the time and send me love letters, and my wife will say, "Gosh, your head is enormous," and I'll say, "Oh." So a lot of simple things. I have clients right now during the COVID virus problem. We've re-optimized some of their websites, sort of reconfigured them, and they're pretty happy even in the very difficult environment that we're at. So, I most of my business is books and training. I do consulting kind of on a limited basis, and I like to be in the thick of the trenches of what the problems are.
Yeah.
And I love local businesses. Local business is my favorite kind of business to work with. But to be honest, I'm really busy with consulting. I mean, I do that, but I'm not desperate for consulting. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
I mean,
no.
But I just think I think I get a lot of kick out of just the empowerment of the whole thing. There's a lot of things people do themselves that will really help them.
And so if someone was looking at purchasing your books, is there a particular order that they should read them in, or that you would say that would give them the most bang for their buck in terms of, do they build on each other? Or are they completely separate?
History is very important. I would start with SEO, search engine optimization, because I think it's very foundational. It's very valuable for this type of business. So I would read that book first.
Okay.
If you have a budget and you're going to do AdWords, which I think for these kinds of businesses, Google Ads is very important as well.
Okay.
Very valuable. There's lots of dirty tricks in Google, but I do think Google Ads would be very critical. And then I would do social media last. Social media is the least important to this kind of a business because, yeah, and it's kind of misunderstood, right? And the reason for that is you just have to think consumer behavior, right? If I have a bat problem in my attic, I'm going to go, crap, I've got bats in my attic, and I'm going to pull out Google, and I'm going to Google bat control or pest removal. I'm not going to go on Facebook and say, hey, guys, does anybody know a really cool bat control person?
Right.
So I'm going to go to Google, and then what am I going to do? I'm going to look at reviews. I'm going to see who ranks, and then I'm going to read the reviews, and I'm going to make a choice, and that decision's probably going to be made in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So Google and Google Ads, very important. The social media, I mean, I don't want to hurt your audience's feelings, but I don't think people go on Instagram and are just like, here I am with my dead bat, check it out. It's not like a sushi restaurant or a custom pool company or a Disney cruise or something where people are likely to really share content.
Yeah.
So the intent base is the fancy word for that is intent. Intent-based advertising, which is what Google and SEO and Google are, is much more valuable.
Yeah. So I've heard that the AdWords have really gotten competitive within the pest control space. Where the prices have gotten, I guess, ridiculous from what I've heard from.
Yes, there's a lot of in Google. And again, this is like, let's all be adults here. Google it's not Google.org. It's not Google charity.
Right.
They want to make money, and they make money off of advertising. So they have unfortunately done a lot of dirty tricks to try to force people to advertise, which is force the cost up. Now, you can still be more skillful at that than the average person. I have a book on that for that reason.
Yeah.
But yes, that is an issue. On the phone in particular, you really want to advertise on the phone on what's called a short tail search. So pest control, or they don't put in pest control Miami or, something very nichey like, bat control or bat removal. They just put in a generic pest control. Right. You almost have to advertise, especially to be on the phone, especially outside of your geo, like outside of your zip code, or maybe
it's gotten that hard right down to the zip code area.
It's very difficult. And so you do, unfortunately, one of the trends that's out there, which I think is it is what it is that you have to have an advertising budget to succeed long term, I think. Unless you're super nichey, unless you're just like given this industry, it might be like, I think of some of the more unusual problems, like bats would be a good example. Mm-hmm. But if you're just generic pest control, you probably need an ad budget.
Ad budget. And do you have a recommendation on what someone should be realistically looking to spend?
Yeah, it depends on the size. Depends on the size of it. If it's a small business, I'd say a couple $1,000 a month, somewhere in that range, depending on the size of the business. Riches are in the niches, but a medium-sized business, it just depends. I have some clients spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month on ads. I have some clients spend $500,000. It varies. It depends on what the need of the business is.
Gotcha. And how long should they be using ads before to give it a good college try? How many months should they do it before they just simply throw their hands up and say, well, this didn't work for me. I need to try a different words. What would be fair?
Well, let's dig into ads. What is the problem with ads? You got to think about it this way. You got to know the keyword. Is it pest control? Is it rodent control? Is it rabbit control? Is it gopher control? Whatever. Yeah. You got to know the keywords. You got to know the geo. What are the geos that you want to advertise in where you're going to likely want to service, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's like you have to write good ads that stand out, that people want to click on, that do what I call attract, repel. Attract your customers and repel tire kickers, right?
Right.
And you have to play on the conversion experience. Once they land on your website, what is going to help them convert? Okay, I'll tell you another fun fact. Here's a pro trip for people. Get grandma, bring her in, have her look at your website and say, Grandma, where's our phone number? And if grandma's like, I don't know how to contact these people. Where is the contact? Yeah. That's not good.
That's a problem.
It needs to be really obvious. How do I call you? Can I get a free estimate? Like you said, in some types of pest control, it's a free estimate. You want to lead with that free estimate. If you don't offer a free estimate, you want to lead with like, here's a consultation or an estimate or something like that. So you want to think about the landing experience. So if you have all of your ducks in a row and you're making money, then a couple weeks, you'll know for sure.
Wow.
It's very, very quick. But what happens often to me is people say, well, AdWords suck. And I'll say, well, what did you do? Well, we spent $1,000. What did you run on? We ran on Rabbit. Okay, great. Right? What we just did what Google told us, which is Rabbit. Did you have your phone number on your website? No, we didn't have our phone number. It was buried on page 12. What was your geo target? We targeted all of Miami-Dade County. And he's like, well, what do you service? What would be your best customer? These 3 zip codes. So it's like, okay, so you didn't know your keywords. You had you wrote crappy ads. You ran on the entire metro area. When they landed on your website, they couldn't find your phone number or your contact us. Yeah, it was definitely Google. That was the problem.
Right. Well, you certainly
You're me late in the day, so I'm being more cynical and direct.
Yes, no. I think this is
guys are tough, right? You're out killing things.
We are. Yes, right? We do. You're certainly speaking some hard truths here, just like my scale.
Fun fact: I had a mouse infestation in my house in California. We were near kind of a hillside, and we had a drought, right? Mm-hmm. And I killed like 40 mice in the span of like 3 days. It was like a invasion of.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
That's a problem.
And after, you kill one, you feel bad. After a while, when you see them peeing and pooping all over your house, man. You're like, okay, this is war, dude.
Yes.
Prisoner. I do not feel bad. So.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Look at your SEO and your AdWords. It's kind of a war. You've got to get out there, and if you want to succeed, you gotta work at it.
I see. I'm looking at your web page now. I'm looking at your book section on your web page. So just a reminder to everybody, it's JM Internet Group, and so you can also look it up on jm-seo.org. And he has. So I'm looking at 5 books here. You've mentioned 3 before. You had the SEO, AdWords, and social media, but you also have the marketing book and the marketing almanac.
Yeah, so a couple of fun facts. So I have a book called The Marketing Book, which I wrote because it's kind of the prequel. Like if I'm Star Wars, it's like the prequel to my. and the reason, hey, I'm a nerd. And the reason I wrote that book is because people would take my class and they wouldn't understand basic marketing concepts. Like, what is your target customer? What is your business value proposition? What is your unique selling proposition? So the book called The Marketing Book is on the website that you mentioned, James Internet Group. And fun fact, I'm giving it away free during the pandemic because I'm like, okay, here's something free. When you're sitting at home, you can think about your marketing. And that's a very basic, foundational book, practical marketing. So that one is now free. It's free for a limited time as long as the coronavirus is killing us all.
And you just download it, or is it being mailed?
It's a PDF. It's a PDF. Download the PDF for free. Just go to my website and you download. That book is normally sells on Amazon for like $12. And then I have a marketing almanac, which is a tool book, and I have a dashboard of tools. Those are also free. So I do have some free resources out there. But I would recommend the marketing book, especially this kind of an industry. It's a very practical, basic, like just ABC, C-Jack run kind of primer about marketing.
Okay. Well, you get a free book, everybody. So definitely go to jm-seo.org and look under his book section, and you'll be able to download it. But don't wait forever. Might as well do it soon. And then you have your other book, which was the calendar, or was it the chronicle? What was? I'm off that page now, so I forgot the exact title.
I have a couple books that flopped. I have a book that was called The Password Book. It was about password security. I actually read a book on Donald Trump that flopped.
Did you?
Miserably, yes. And my daughter always gives me a hard time. Like, oh, how's that book doing, Dad? I was like, yeah, that one flamed out. So, but you know what? I'm very much into sports because I'm a nerd, right? The ball that's never thrown can't hit home plate or whatever it's called, right? So, you have to get them out there. But the 3 big ones are the SEO, social media, and AdWords. And then this marketing book is another practical book. That one is free right now during the pandemic. And then the almanac is more tools book. So it's not really a book. It's a set of tools.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you've heard it here, everybody. Is there anything more that that you'd want to get out to our audience that would help them, that you want to be sure that they know? And we certainly talked about your website. I would just sort
of leave them with this attitude. I think, I love small business owners. I'm very much about empowerment. And I find, unfortunately, our computer industry, we've done a great job just making everyone feel stupid. And I find very practical things that small business owners can do for their website, for their ads, for their social, have a huge impact. And I would never want anyone to be intimidated, like, you can't do this. You can make a huge difference in the success of your business. If some very simple things will have very high return on investment. And so I really want to kind of leave people with a sense of empowerment. I'm very much kind of like a DIYer, you can do this. You just a little knowledge and you can make a big, big difference in your bottom line. And I think that's important because a lot of the techies, they make you feel stupid, right? They make you feel that you don't know what you're doing. And that's not true. This is not rocket science. It's hard work, but it is not rocket science, is my kind of take on it.
Well, I think that's very encouraging for our audience, because I do think that tendency has come out there in some of the marketing ideas out there. Well, Mr. McDonald, we really appreciate you coming on to the Pesky Podcast, Living the Wildlife segment. We're really glad to have you. Hey, everybody, do visit his website. Why don't you give us that URL again?
It's jm-seo.org, or you can just Google my name, Jason McDonald, and I'm at the top of Google. I beat out a baseball player. I'm very happy about that. And you can find me that way. Just Google Jason McDonald or go to Amazon and put in SEO and you'll see my books.
Great. I think there's been a lot of good tips here for you, everybody. And hey, and like you said, toughen up, everybody. It's a war out there, or a very rough football game. And so I'm Stephen Van Tassel, Pest Geek Podcast, Living the Wildlife. Hey, everybody, let me know what you like about the podcast, what you don't like about the podcast. My email is wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, Mr. McDonald. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.